Golden Gopher fans. Welcome to Golden Dunkers Live. I'm your host, Eric Harris Jr., aka the Defensive Specialist. Man, do we have a treat today. This individual defines what Gopher great / Gopher legend means. Not only did he have a great career as a Gopher, but he went on to play in the NBA. But that's important, but what sets him apart to me is what he's doing now in the community as a businessman, as an entrepreneur. You know, he's a father, he's a husband, he's a brother, he's a mentor. The man just does him for, you know, contributing to me and helping me out public. I'm just excited because he's the blueprint for what Coach Haskins wanted his young men to grow up to be and contribute to society. So I have so many questions for this guy. He has 3 kids that played Division I basketball. They were great student athletes, and 2 of them are going to be pros. So it's unbelievable the job that he did. I know it takes a village to raise a family, but I'm just honored and excited to have him here today. He represents the pillar, that team that he played on in the late 80s and early 90s represents an important pillar for Coach Haskins' legacy. So I want to dive into everything. I want to take him back and just let everyone understand what this man represents. So with no further ado, I bring to you Mr. Richard Coffey. Richard, how you doing, sir? How's everything, man?
I'm doing well, my man. How are you?
I'm blessed, brother. I'm blessed. Thank you for the time, man. We appreciate you. I know it's tournament time. You're getting ready to get out of here soon. So thank you for allowing us to visit with you, man.
For sure. No problem at all. Thank you for having me on the show.
Yes, sir. How's everything, man? I know you're excited about the run the Gophers made, and, you know, they have a tough Louisville team on Thursday, but I guess we can just start there really quick about your thoughts on the season, the run that they made, and your expectations against a tough Louisville team on Thursday.
Yeah, that's going to be a tough matchup for our guys. You know, one good thing about playing in the Big Ten, you get used to having tough matchups. So I'm sure they're going to be ready for this game that they're playing tomorrow against Louisville. And I think if our team play well, we can come out with a victory.
I definitely agree with you. For those that don't know, Mr. Richard Coffey is Amir Coffey's dad. And I said it from the beginning. I interviewed Amir about 2 years ago, I think prior to going into his freshman year with the Gophers, and I just saw the talent from the beginning. He can score it. He passes the ball exceptionally well. He gets others involved. He can rebound. His IQ is phenomenal, and I just think that on the next level, which is the NBA level, I feel that he can be a 13-year NBA pro, a productive 13-year NBA pro. And I just feel that his game is going to flourish on that level. Rich, are we going to see Mr. Coffey here next year? Because I think it's time for him to get it done on the next level, man. Are we going to see him here next year?
Well, first of all, I want to say if you predicted him to be a 13-year pro, you need to be a GM somewhere so you can so you can provide that opportunity for him. You know, Amir's had a really good season so far with the University of Minnesota, and you know, this year him being a junior, with the rule changes of the NCAA, it allows kids like Amir to come out and test the waters to see what people are thinking about him, give him an opportunity to go through the process to get experience with what's out there and what that process looks like. So yeah, he's probably going to do that once the season is over. I think a lot of kids are going to do that. And we're going to see, you know, Amir and I haven't sat down and talked about a lot about what happens at the end of this year and next year. I got a couple of thoughts on that. One thought is, if you're a kid coming out of high school and you can come out of college early as a freshman or even maybe a sophomore, then I think you should do that. But when you in Amir's situation, he's a junior. You're so close to graduation. You're so close to finishing school, which is a great accomplishment for any kid that can go to school and leave with a degree. He's so close to that, and those things are so important. So we're looking at everything right now. But yes, to answer your question, he would definitely, get some feedback. Hopefully, get invited to a couple of team camps where they can evaluate him and give him some really good feedback of what his strengths are and what his weaknesses are, and then from there, some decisions can be made.
Well, Rich, I'll tell you, if you guys do decide that it's time for him to go to the next level, I really do believe that his skill set is just going to shine so much more in the NBA because the floor is wide open. And
yeah,
I had a chance to see him consistently this season. So the skill set is there. So whoever you mentioned earlier, the right GM that understands that this kid can play and he understands the game and he's a winner, it's going to be a perfect situation for him.
Yeah, I think he has the skill set of an NBA player, especially with how the NBA is these days. It's kind of positionless basketball, and when you can play multiple positions, that help. And I think he can. I think some things that he could have been more consistent with is some of the if he had been a little more consistent throughout the year, that would have helped. So I think with if he can continue to show some consistency and continue to work on his jump shot and have a really good showing in some of these camps, we'll see what happens.
So, Rich, piggybacking off of Amir, I see a lot of fathers, dads, whatever you want to call them, across the country. They have talented kids, and I just feel that they get in the way in terms of not being able to toe the line of being dad and being coach/trainer.
Right.
I think they mean well, but
right.
I've never had that experience, but it just seems to me that if you trust your kids' coaches, you put them in a certain position, and then at a certain point, you got to kind of step away a little bit. Can you talk about a little bit? Because you had, like I said, 3 of your kids, they all play Division I basketball. Nia is playing professionally. And like I said, Amir will be. So what's the secret to being able to manage being dad and coach/trainer? How does that work?
Well, from the very beginning, you got to find people that's in your circle, even when they're young. You have to find people that's in your circle that you can trust, that can help, take your kids to the next level and help them keep getting better. Our family was pretty fortunate because we played in the Hopkins School District, and my kids had a phenomenal high school coach. Amir had a phenomenal high school coach in Kenny Novak, and my girls had a phenomenal high school coach in Coach Kaz. And those coaches played a big role into who the players that they have become. But even looking back earlier in Amir's career, Amir's been pretty fortunate throughout his young career to have really good coaches all along the way. I mean, Amir's 5th grade coach was Parrish Curry, and Parrish did an amazing job with coaching Amir, even when he was in the 5th grade, to help Amir understand, the game and help Amir get better. And Parrish is still one of those guys that's in Amir's life even to this day. So all of those people help. So we were pretty fortunate as a family just to be able to have those experiences in high school. And then, from my father's perspective, we spent the kids and I spent a lot of time in the gym when they were young, working on different things and, working on shooting, working on dribbling, just trying to be consistent with getting better. We spent many hours in the gym, and then finding, you mentioned about it takes a village, finding those other people that help them focus on what their goals are and have the same vision for your kids as I have the same vision for your kids as you have is extremely important. And then, you know, when you send them off to college, it's important to, I mean, they have to stand on their own. You know, for example, Amir's been at the University of Minnesota for 3 years now. I have never been to a University of Minnesota practice. I have not been to one. I'm not interested in going to one. You know, he's an adult now. He has to figure that stuff out on his own. Now he and I have conversations about different things from time to time. But for me to be showing up at practice all the time, kind of looking over, being there, it's just something that I didn't want to do, and I wanted Amir to stand on his own talents and his own merit, and I think he's done that.
What was the competition like back then with Amir, Sydney, and Nia? Like, obviously, his sisters at one point were probably better than him.
Yeah, for sure. They're a little older. I mean, honestly, out of the three of them, Sydney played professional overseas a couple years as well, and out of the three of them, Sydney has better hand-eye coordination than all of them.
Wow.
She probably has a better three-point shooting percentage than all of them. Her free throw percentage is better than all of them. They all had different gifts and talents that they brought to the basketball court. And it was just fun to see, them growing up. It was fun to be their parent, helping them turn into, positive role models and positive adults in our community. All those things were important to our family and still important to our family. And, helping them understand that there's always another level that they can get to, and always searching for that next level and always testing that next level and, pushing yourself to each and every day. So those are some of the things that they, from the time they were kids that we always kind of focus on, and I always focus on with them. And, it's paying off, like you said, it's Sydney is the oldest. She played college basketball, and then she played overseas, played professionally overseas. Then Nia played college basketball D1, and now she's in the WNBA, and Amir's still in college. So his story, and all three of them's story is still being written. And, Amir's still in college, so we'll see what happens for him over the next couple of years and where basketball leads him.
Yes, sir. Kudos to you, Rich. You did an amazing job. Shout out to your beautiful wife and Amir's mom as well. You guys did a great job, man. So
appreciate that.
So let's take them back, Rich. Aurora, North Carolina. Am I saying it right? That's where you're from?
Yeah, that's it.
Aurora, North Carolina. You were an airborne paratrooper.
Yes.
You did it all, brother. Take us back to the early beginnings. High school basketball. North Carolina obviously is a hotbed for basketball talent.
It is.
What was it like growing up in high school, and who were some of the guys that you competed against back in those days?
Oh, awesome. I come from a really small town. I think we had maybe 400 people. I grew up about an hour from the Atlantic Ocean. I didn't grow up thinking that I would be a college basketball player or anything of that nature. We come from a family where my mother and father worked really hard. And, as a kid in the summertime, if school was out, you have to find a job, and you use the money from that job that you made in the summer to buy your school clothes for the following year. And I just happened to be a kid that played football, basketball, and baseball, and ran track. And, when it came to graduation, the small town that I was from, there wasn't a lot of, economic growth in the town, and there weren't a lot of jobs around. And my father kind of knew that. And so he kind of forced myself and my siblings away from that area. I remember I remember having a conversation with him in the one diner that we had in town. And he and I had visited that diner 1,000 times as I was growing up. It was kind of a little meeting place for us to meet, to talk about what's going on in my life, and he would give me fatherly advice. But the last time I went to the diner with him, I think I was a senior in high school, and honestly, I didn't have any plans of whether I was going to go to college or what I was going to do with my life. But he sit me down at the diner at night and basically told me, he said, you graduate in June. By September, I want you out of my house. I want you out of this town, and I want you out of this state. And you have two choices. You either go to college or you go to the military. And if you go to college, you got to find a way to pay for it yourself because we can't afford to. And at the time, I was 6'1", 140 pounds, and no one was looking at a 6'1", 140-pound power forward. So I had no opportunities from a scholarship perspective. So, I thought about what he told me, and I decided to join the Army. And I joined the Army, and, about an hour and a half away from where I grew up was Fort Bragg military base, and the 82nd Airborne lives at Fort Bragg, and the 82nd Airborne is the largest airborne unit in the world. So I actually decided, the only reason I decided to go airborne is because I wanted to stay close to home, and I was trying to stay close to my mom, right? An hour and a half away, I figure if I go airborne, I can get stationed an hour and a half away from where I grew up, and the transition wouldn't be so hard. So that's how I actually got to be an 82nd Airborne paratrooper and join the military. And I think it, back then I was a little confused of why my father was so persistent at me leaving. But as I got older, I understood that he was, myself and my other siblings, he was kicking us out to try to create a better life and a stronger life than what he and my mom had experienced in that small town, that small southern town that we grew up in.
Mm-hmm. So, respect to you for serving the country, man. That's
sure.
That's a huge responsibility. So thank you for that. So what were some of your roles within that airborne situation? What was some of the
so whenever you're in the 82nd Airborne, you train for one thing and one thing only, and that's war.
Wow.
If there's ever a war that the United States are involved in, the 82nd Airborne is some of the first people to go. It's either the Marines and the 82nd Airborne. They're the first to go, and I was in the 82nd Airborne unit. So, the entire time I was in, all we did was train for war. And you train for not if war is going to happen, but when war is going to happen. And I was pretty fortunate at the time that I was in. We never went to war, but you trained every single day as if you were being war. So that's all we did, hand-to-hand combat, camping out overnight, playing, infantry games, learning strategies about war, learning different techniques about, war and things like that. That's what we worked on the entire time. For 3 years, that's all we worked on.
So it makes sense. Every time someone was being soft on one of my teams, Coach Haskins will always say, I need 5 Richard Coffeys. Give me 5 Richard Coffeys, we'll be all right.
Well, one thing.
Go ahead, continue. I'm sorry.
One thing you learn really quickly when you go in the military, there's no room for soft people. So it's you go straight to a survival mode, and when if you're really talking about a true brotherhood, you find that in the military because you really have to depend on each other to survive when you are in some of those situations. So I still keep in contact with a lot of those cats from back in the 80s relationships that I made when I was in the military, that they're still some of my strongest relationships to this day. And it's mainly because of some of the things that we went through. When I got to college, it was so different. So I ETS'd, or I exited the military in 1986 on September the 25th, I believe. I flew from the military, and the very next day, September the 26th, I was in an 8 o'clock class. So I didn't have any breaks. So I went from an environment of working together, surviving together, and brotherhood, strong brotherhood, to now I'm on a college campus, and every class was super competitive, right? So, and then I get in practice with these guys that I don't know and I haven't built a relationship with, and practices were super competitive. It was different than what I had experienced in the military. So I basically used my military experiences and my experiences of growing up in my father's household to help me get through every part of my life. And that's what helped me get through college. Growing up in my father's household, you had chores every single day. I mean, every one of my chores was, every Saturday morning I had to get up and cut the grass. I could not leave the house until our grass was cut. And my backyard is about the size of a football field. So we had a lot of land, and I had to do that every Saturday morning before I left the house. And you did not leave the house on Saturday until that grass was cut. And if you did leave the house before you cut the grass, there was hell to pay. So it was, I grew up in a very, strict environment. My father was a very strong man. He knew the challenges that we were faced growing up in America, and he wanted to give us every opportunity to be successful at those things. And to this day, I miss him, and I appreciate what he did for me when I was growing up, and what he and my mom instilled in me that kind of helped me with my life. Even today at 53, I still draw back on some of those experiences and conversations that I had with my father before he passed away.
Sorry to hear that. Your mom still around?
No, she passed away as well a couple of years ago. So, my father died when I was in college. That's why when Dupree's mother died, this year, I truly felt what he was dealing with, because my father died when I was a sophomore in college, and when I was at the University of Minnesota, and my father died during the season as well.
Wow.
And I, it's a strange thing to go through when it's so public, right? Because you get people walking up to you, strangers who means well, and telling you, hey, I'm sorry for your loss, and so you get so much support. But then what happens sometime when you get so much support, and your mind never gets a break from the big event that happened, and then what happens? Everybody feels your sorrow for 2 or 3 days, but then they move on with their lives, but you're still stuck in this area of suffering. But you still have to go out and perform in school, and you got to perform on the basketball court. So I commend him for what he did this year, and the way that he focused in, and how he was able to push through and stay focused in school and stay focused on the court. It just shows you what type of character he is and what type of person he is. And it's just, man, I mean, I think about that young man every single day, because I know what it feels like to lose a parent when you're his age, and how big that loss is in your life at that particular time.
Yes, Dupree did a great job, the way he carried himself, phenomenal young man. And, I just gave him my condolences when I got a chance to talk to him. So I'm to play for him, and he definitely did do that.
For sure.
Your parents, two beautiful individuals, condolences to you for your loss, man.
For sure.
They raised a great young man. So transitioning really quick.
Yeah.
You obviously grew about 5 inches.
Yes.
Where did the Gopher connection come from? How did they find you? Were you playing in the military? How did that?
Yeah. So this is a great story, actually, and this is a story that I tell young people all the time: always be prepared for your opportunity. If you wait until the opportunity presents itself, it's too late to prepare for it. Yes, you always have to be prepared for an opportunity, because you never know when it's going to happen. So I was playing basketball in the military, and I had made the All-Army team. The All-Army team is, they pick 12 guys from all of the Army, and they put them on this team, and you kind of travel around and play basketball. And we had a tournament coming up. Now, I was the youngest guy on the team. I was 18 at the time, about 19 maybe, and I was the youngest guy on the team. All these other guys had played college basketball already, and then they went from college to the military. So now they're playing on the All-Army team. And on this team, I was probably the 10th or the 11th man. I never played. And the weekend that Clem came, some miraculous things happened for me to get on the court. I believe in faith, right? And I believe in destiny, and I believe in, and I'm a strong believer in God. And I believe that there's a path that's created by God for all of us. And I think God has had an amazing path for me in my life. And I think this was part of God's plan for me. Clem came to see our team play, but he came to see another individual on the team. And at the current time, Clem was at Western Kentucky. He came to see this 6'11" guy we had on our team named Anthony Smith. That was the only reason he came to watch our team play. So the game was going to be on Saturday. So I had two small forwards playing in front of me, which means I got no minutes. Mm-hmm. So 2 days before the game that we played that Clem came to watch, the starting small forward, he twisted his ankle in practice really bad. So he wasn't able to play in Saturday's game. So the coach came up to me and he said, hey, be ready to play about 5 or 10 minutes. I'm going to play this other guy as much as I can. He has more experience than you, but if he gets tired, be ready to back him up. And I said, okay, I will. With the starting small forward being out, where the morning of the game, the other guy that was left to play in front of me, he woke up with a really serious case of the flu. So he wasn't able to play. So I went from not playing at all to starting.
Wow.
I started that game. Clem was there watching, along with some other college coaches. I had 25 points and 24 rebounds. That's the only game Clem ever seen me play. He leaves for the weekend. The guy gets over the flu. That guy that sprained his ankle, he was able to play the following weekend. I go back to sitting on the bench, not playing again, and I end up getting a scholarship from the University of Minnesota, offer from Clem Haskins. That's exactly how it happened. It was kind of crazy, but that is exactly how it happened. One game, the opportunity presented itself. I had prepared to take advantage of it. And when that opportunity came, I was ready for it.
That's life in a nutshell. That's Richard Coffey Unlimited right there, baby. That's life in a nutshell. But that's real talk. You were ready. You capitalized.
Yeah.
This is history, man. God works magic, Rich. We know that.
No doubt.
So, Coach Haskins, you caught him when he was raw. He was trying to really prove himself.
Yeah.
By the time I got him in 96, 97, he was probably toned down a little bit. But Can you describe for people that never met Coach Haskins and never got a chance to spend time with him, the type of individual he is? Forget about X's and O's, but the type of man, you could talk about X's and O's if you want to.
Yeah.
And his sidekick, his beautiful wife, Mrs. Beth.
Amazing.
Can you elaborate on them a little bit?
First of all, an amazing family, an amazing couple, and I came to Minnesota, or to the University of Minnesota, for one reason. Back when I made a choice to come here, it was for one simple reason, and that was to play for Clem Haskins. And after getting here and really getting to know, who he was as an individual and as a man, I realized really quickly that I made the right decision. He was a warrior. And he reminded me so much of my father and the way that my father raised us. And he was tough. I remember one of the sayings that he would say consistently is, there's no free ice cream. And that's funny because that's one of the same sayings my father used to say all the time. There's no free ice cream. If you get some ice cream, you got to work for it. Right. So I really enjoyed Clem and his approach to the game and his approach to our team. He really took us as young men and helped mold us into become who we are today. There were no shortcuts. There were no easy way out. You had to go the straight way. It was tough. It was hard. He demanded a lot from you. He knew you had a lot to give, and he expected to get all of that out of you. And I absolutely loved that. If I had to make that choice all over again, I would play for only him again, because he was so much more than a basketball coach. And then his wife, Yvette, was just amazing. I mean, I was with her. She experienced some of my lowest moments in my life with me. She, when I lost my father, she was there. She treated me like a son. And the injury I had at the University of Minnesota, when I missed about half of the season, I mean, how they took care of us, not only when things were going well, but at the tough moments in our life when we really needed some support. They really just took care of us like we were their kids. And it's one thing to be a great basketball coach, and there are a lot of great basketball coaches around around America that does a really good job from a basketball perspective. You know, and I remember those things with Clem. I remember the battles that we were in, and I remember that the locker room talks and the halftime talks and the intensity in his voice and the intensity in the way he coached. And I appreciated that. But I'm telling you what, the one thing that I appreciate more than any of that is the man that he is, that he was back then and that he is now. And I appreciate the woman that Miss Haskin is and how they care for us as a group. And they created the family. We had a team that was truly a family, and that was only created because they created that. You know, they were the leadership, both him and her. They were the leadership to that team. And, you know, however the leadership is, that's how the people that's following the leadership is going to be.
I love those two. Coach Haskins, obviously, warrior, man. He just
amazing people. He is a straight up warrior. He is a straight up warrior. And when I came here for one reason, and that was to play for a warrior. He got every ounce of my ability out of me. When I left the University of Minnesota, I have given everything that I had inside of me. And I'm telling you right now, you know, going into battle with him, knowing that he would have your back, knowing that he was right there in the foxhole with you, knowing that he wasn't going to turn and run, knowing that if it was going to be a fight, he was going to be right there fighting beside you. Man, I'm telling you, I loved him. I get passionate talking about it right now because it just brings me back to some of the things that we went through and how we just fought through a lot of, you know, tough situations. I mean, when we played Syracuse, no one gave us a chance to win that game. No one. But I'm telling you, his pregame speech before the Syracuse game, when we left that locker room, we were ready to run through an army of 10,000 to win that game. And that's why he was. He wasn't only strong with the X's and O's, but he was also strong as a motivator. I mean, and he pushed you to the very limit of everything that you had to give. And there were times when he would get on you so hard and tear you down. But what I loved about him, the very next minute, he has his arm around you and he's building you back up. And that's what made him a great coach.
Legend has it. I agree 100%. Legend has it that and you don't have to comment that there was one or two times that you two were gonna go toe to toe. Coach Haskins didn't want no smoke. He didn't want anything to do with that. So you don't have to comment, but legend has it that you were the one guy that he didn't want any problems with.
Well, I mean, I was a little older when I got here, and you know, I had been through a lot of the things that the young guys was going through when they first leave home and now they're in college. I went through some of those things at a much more intense level when I was in the military. So, you know, a lot of those things, they didn't bother me because I knew some of it was mind games, you know, some of it was, you know, trying to make sure that you were going to be a team player. And I went through those things in the military. But, no, I respected Coach. And I know Coach respected me, and we just had, I'm telling you, there's not one other person that I would rather play against. And when you're in the heat of the battle, yeah, sometimes when you're in the heat, I mean, when you're in the middle of the heat, sometimes, you know, things pop off. But the great thing about Coach and his relationship with all of his guys, you knew he was always on your team, and you knew he always had your back. And that's why you wanted to go out there and give 110% for him, not only in the games, but in practice. I remember we lost to Austin P at home, and the game started. I think it was an 8:00 game. We lost to Austin P, and right after the game was over, and I think I looked at the clock. After the game, we watched film of the game right after the game was over in the locker room, and then after we watched film, we had practice. When we stepped on the practice after the game, it was midnight when we started that practice. And we probably practiced at 3:00 in the morning. And I'm telling you, it was like the most intense practice I've ever been a part of. But he was just as intense as we were. And when you go through things like that with somebody, you really understand the importance of giving everything that you have to give at the moment that you need to give it. Right. And then, he talked about, opportunities, and when they came, making sure you were prepared. I mean, it's so amazing that, him and my father, they were cut from the same cloth, because a lot of the conversations that I had with Clem when I was at the University of Minnesota are some of those same conversations that I used to have with my father when I was growing up. One thing my father used to say to me, and I didn't understand it as a kid, but Clem used to say the same thing. And the phrase was, birds of a feather flock together. And I used to always, ask my father, what are you talking about, birds of a feather flock together? And what it really means is eagles hang out with eagles and crows hang out with crows. And if you're going to be an eagle, you can't hang out with a crow and do what crows do. You have to separate yourself from that. So, those life lessons were, they were extremely important to me. My father used to always tell me, your reputation precedes you. When he first started telling me that at age 5 or 6, I didn't know what the heck he was talking about. But I learned what that was. And Clem used to tell me the same thing. Your reputation precedes you. And it does. Your reputation precedes you. People think something about you. They believe something about you long before they meet you. So if you understand that you are creating your reputation every single day you wake up, and it takes a long time to create a strong reputation. It takes a long time to do that. And it takes a second to destroy it. So you have to be really careful, and you have to be really focused on who you're hanging out with, what you're doing, and what you're trying to create. Because you can create it could take you decades to create a reputation. If you do one or two things wrong, that can be destroyed in a matter of a second. So, just learning those life lessons from my father and from Clem, and just knowing that they were cut from the same cloth, that's really made me even more intense and made me want to give Clem Haskins more than give him everything that I had. Especially after my father passed away. After my father passed away, Clem was that guy in my life that I really looked to as a father figure, right? For a long time. Because my father passed when I was really young, and I really didn't have a chance to spend any of my adult life with my father. I left home when I was 17 to go in the military. I was not even 18. My parents actually had to sign for me to go in the military. And then I left the military and I came straight to college. And my father passed away when I was a sophomore. So unfortunately, I didn't get a lot of time to spend with my father as an adult. But, thank God, throughout my life, God has sent certain people my direction to help replace that missing link. One of those individuals was Clem Haskins, and Clem was that individual for me a very long time in my life. And then later in life, I met this gentleman named Ed Anderson. And Ed is Ed, I think is 75 to this day, but Ed is like a father figure to me. I talk to Ed every single morning, and he came in my life probably in the 93, 94. And right after I had left school, and Clem was back coach, and I have moved on with my life. So I've been pretty blessed to have men come in my life that can help me from a father figure perspective. And all young men and young women need to have a father figure in their life. Every single individual. Mothers bring different things to the relationships, and fathers bring different things to the relationship. And you really need both of those. You need both of those entities to create the person.
Amen. And do you talk about that a little bit with your leadership programs in terms of father figures and mentorship and how important that is?
Oh, sure. Yeah. That's really important. I talk about that a lot. I talk about, one of the things I discuss in my presentations, I talk about the importance of self-evaluation. It's the importance of self-evaluation to help you get to your next level. We all have another level to get to. Every single one of us have another level. All those kids at the University of Minnesota right now that's playing on that team, they have another level to get to. They have another season coming up in their life, whether whether they're graduating from college and moving on, or whether they're juniors, sophomores, another season is coming. Another season is coming, whether it's working in corporate America, playing basketball somewhere else, graduating from college, going to grad school, some type of another season is coming. And one of the keys to that is finding a way to continue to self-evaluate so you can continue to get better and try to be better tomorrow than you are today. That's what I talk to my kids about all the time. I mean, they probably get tired of hearing it, right? But that's one of the messages I talk to my kids about, and I talk to anyone that's willing to listen. I'll talk to them about that, because that's really important. And then we, don't give failure so much power in our lives. So many people are afraid of failure. Failure can actually be an adversary if you use it the right way. If you go through something and you fail and you step back and you kind of process through, what just happened and not make those same mistakes, you can learn from your failures. You can learn from your defeats, but not the end of the world. If you look at this past season for the Gophers, and even get a little more personal, look at this past season for Amir. Amir started off in the preseason playing pretty decent. The Big Ten season started, he played really well. He went through a couple of games where he played average, and now he's finishing up really strong. So I hear people all the time, oh, Amir had an up and down season. No, he didn't have an up and down season. He had a great season. I can tell you right now, not one person on this earth is perfect, and not one person is consistent all the time. We all have our great days, and we all have our good days, and we all have our bad days. So you got to look at the body of work as a whole. And I think when I look at the body of work as a whole, I think Amir had a really good season. I think Jordan Murphy had a really good season. I think Dupree had a really good season. I think our freshmen that contributed to the team, I think they had a really good season. Now, all those young kids are kids. They're between 18 and 21. If you can think back what you were doing at 18 or 21 or what you have accomplished, those kids are in the spotlight. They get a lot of attention, and they are handling that situation amazing. And, it really bugs me when some people start talking so negative about our kids and their accomplishments and only focusing on their weaknesses. And I ask those people, what were you doing when your butt was 20 years old? What were you doing? What had you accomplished when you were 20? What did you accomplish when you were 18 or when you were 21? What at that point in your life, what had you done? So I say to all the Minnesota fans out there, continue to support these young men. Whether they win or lose, whether they play good or play bad, they're our team. They're our team, and we need to support them through the thick and through the thin.
Way to give us a snippet of that knowledge, Mr. Coffey. If you want more, we have to go to Richard Coffey Unlimited, right?
Richard at richardcoffey.net.
Richard at richardcoffey.net to get those jewels.
Yeah, or you can go to my website, which is richardcoffey.net.
richardcoffey.net. Brilliant brother right there. So, Rich, let's talk about that 1990 team. You guys were special, man. You had a lot of talent. You, Willie Burton, Walter Bond, Melvin Newburn, Mario Green, Connell Lewis. I saw Connell Lewis today, too, by the way. Shout out to Connell.
For sure.
Lynch. Who am I forgetting? Shikenjansky.
Mario Green, Melvin Newburn, Walter Bond, Shikenjansky, Kevin Lynch, Willie Burton, Bob Martin. We had a crew. We had a crew.
It's tournament time. Take us through that journey. You mentioned Syracuse earlier. The game that I was watching, doing some research.
Well, first, I really want to shout out. I want to talk about real quick about Jordan Murphy and the season, the career that he has had at the University of Minnesota. And I truly think that eventually Jordan Murphy's jersey is going to be retired, but not before they retire Willie Burton's jersey. Willie Burton jersey deserves to be retired and deserves to be in the rafters. He's one of the greatest basketball players that ever come through the University of Minnesota. And he had performed at a high level every single night when people were double and triple teaming him, they knew he was the best. They knew he was our best player, and everybody focused on him, and he was still able to get high numbers. And he was a seventh pick, the seventh overall pick in the NBA draft, and played for multiple years in the NBA. So his jersey deserves to be in those Raptors with all those other great players, as well as Jordan Murphy's jerseys, Jordan Murphy jerseys as well. So getting back to your question, our team.
Oh, but wait, Rich, don't go away from that. How good was Willie Burton? I didn't see him in college, but I knew him in the NBA, scoring 50 in the NBA multiple times.
Willie was amazing, man. Willie was one of those guys that just had a ton of God-given talent. And then when you put the God-given talent together with his work ethic, it just made for an explosive situation and an explosive player. 6'7", can shoot the three, could handle the ball, could rebound, could play defense. I mean, he did it all for us. You know, when we needed a basket, we knew Willie would get it. When we needed something to happen offensively, we knew Willie would get it. Willie was a guy with supreme confidence, and he was really let you know about his game and how he felt about his game, but then he went out there and backed it up on the court. He did that consistently for 4 years. You know, when we first got here, the university had went through a big scandal. So as freshmen, you know, I started all 4 years as a Gopher. Willie started all 4 years as a Gopher. And, you know, he performed at that level, at that high level, every single year he was in that uniform. And he was rewarded at the end of his career being the seventh pick in the NBA draft. I mean, he really did everything that was necessary to do on the basketball court. And he has to be one of the highest NBA picks in the history of the University of Minnesota. So with all that said, I just think he deserves to have his jersey retired and put up in the rafters as well, because he was a big part of the history at the University of Minnesota from a basketball perspective.
It's time, Gopher Nation. Let's get that movement going. It's time.
Let's get that done. Let's get that done.
Burton's jersey to be hung up in the rafters.
For sure.
So what was that run like, Rich? Syracuse?
Oh, man, it was great, man. You know, we had I learned a lot from the 4 years that I was at the University of Minnesota, because it was really about life. When we started as freshmen, we were horrible. We had a lot to learn. You know, between my freshman and sophomore year, I think we lost 23 Big Ten games in a row. So we were the worst of the worst at one point, and then became one of the best in the Big Ten by my junior and senior year. And it really shows, and it really taught us the importance of never quitting, never giving up, being consistent, continuing to work, continuing to, believe in yourself, continuing to have courage throughout the process. It's easy to work hard and stay focused when things are going your way. I mean, that's really easy for any of us to do. But when things aren't going your way, like our freshman and sophomore season, from a basketball win-loss perspective, things were not going our way. We lost a whole lot more than we won. But our coaching staff was great, and they helped us stay focused on trying to get better. And then the big thing that happened our junior year, and this was tough to swallow for some people, including myself. Clem, being the coach that he were, he called us all in one by one, and he had everybody to commit to what their role would be. And now, your role didn't necessarily mean you would get to do the things that you wanted to do on the court. You had to sacrifice your individual stats for the betterment of the team. And when we all did that as individuals, our team got so much better, and we start winning so many games. And then what we found, though, in that process, even though we sacrificed our individual achievements and put our team in front of those things, we still were able to be successful as individuals in the roles that he developed for us. And that's why I think, towards the end, we were one basket away from going to the Final Four. We beat Syracuse in my final year when no one gave us a chance. And that's just a testament to the guys that played on that team and how they came together as a family and how no one cared who scored the points. No one cared who got the accolades. There were no jealousy on that team. We just wanted to win. We had a great coaching staff. Clem had some great assistants as well. Al Brown was an amazing assistant. Silas McKinney was an amazing assistant. Coach Barnes was an amazing assistant. So we were able to be mentored by very successful, not only very successful college basketball coaches, but very successful men. And that made a big difference in how we approached everything that we did at the University of Minnesota, and how we prepared our bodies and prepared our minds to try to be the best that we can possibly be. Because I'm telling you right now, any student athlete, regardless which sport you play, you have to be dedicated, you have to sacrifice, and you have to stay focused. You have to be focused in the classroom, and you have to be focused in whatever that sport is that you're playing, because you're giving a lot, and you're burning the candle on both ends, especially when you're in the season. So kudos out to every student athlete that's out there. They work extremely hard to be successful as a student and athlete.
That Georgia Tech game was kind of infamous in terms of Gopher law. A lot of people said, the refs were up to no good that game. But you guys, y'all fought through it. That's the Coach Haskins mentality. We're going to fight through it. We're not going to give up. We're going to keep fighting. Y'all actually went up double digits that game. I was researching it last night on YouTube. But talk about, for my New York followers, the Kenny Anderson phenom. You guys went up against, arguably, in my opinion, one of the best high school players ever to come out of New York City, had a great career. What was Kenny going up against Kenny Anderson like? What was the game plan against a phenom like him?
Well, Kenny Anderson was one of those guys in college that, come along every 10 or 30 years, 20, 30 years. You don't see those type of players that come out of high school all the time. And he was just a phenomenal talent. Very quick guard that can shoot, that can penetrate. His first step was phenomenal. And then they had another guy on their team named Dennis Scott.
Sure.
He played in the NBA for, a 10+ year career that can shoot the ball from anywhere. And they were phenomenal, man. They were really phenomenal. Now, I will say that the referees for that game, I don't know how this happened, but Georgia Tech is an ACC team. We're a Big Ten team. The 3 referees that refereed that game were all from the ACC.
Unbelievable.
So from my understanding, we got an apology from the NCAA once they realized that happened. But all I'm saying is Dennis Scott, I think, finished with like 38 points. 23 of those points came from the free throw line.
Wow.
For Dennis Scott. Willie Burton finished with 39 points. He was our he was the number 1 guy offensively for us, and he didn't go to the free throw line one time. He had 0 free throws. How is that possible? So I might be a little pissed off about that game still, but the referees, they were definitely biased during that game anyway.
Case closed. You can't argue against that. 0 free throws for your number 1 option.
For the number 1 option. So, but even when you find yourself in those situations, you still got to battle through, right? You still got to fight through. You can't make excuses. You got to go out, whatever cause you're a dealt, you gotta fight through it. When life deals you lemons, make lemonade.
Lemonade.
So you still got to push your way through it. And that's what we did. We pushed our way through it. We almost came out with a victory. It was really a hard fought battle. They came out on top. They had some phenomenal players on that team. I mean, they had two players that went high first round draft picks that year. So they were a good team as well. But it's just the memories, man. When you look back, you don't even, I really don't think about the wins and the losses that much. I think about the relationships that I built over the years. And I don't think about the destination of making it to the Final Four or the destination of making it, trying to make it to a NCAA championship. When you think back, it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. And it's the journey where you build relationships, where you meet people, where you build lifelong relationships, where you meet people like the people that's in the Golden Dunkers. And you meet people like those individuals along the way where you build strong relationships and strong bonds with people that I still keep in contact with today. Individuals from the Golden Dunkers. I mean, these are, whenever you can position yourself to be around positive people, that's helping you create positive things in your life, especially when you're young, when you're that age. It affects who you are as a person. And then to keep in contact with those individuals long after I've been removed from the University of Minnesota, to still have relationships with some of those individuals, it's just amazing. So it's not even about the destination of where you're trying to get to in life. It's about that journey and who you build in relationships with and the relationships that you create for yourself.
I agree with you 100%, Rich. That group would push you, man. I have a lot of respect for you guys. You guys set the tone, like I said. That you guys are the pillar that push things forward with the next wave with Towns and Vashon, Randy, Ariel.
Yeah.
Next wave, and then it keeps moving. It keeps moving forward. He came in, but you guys were the foundation. Kudos to all those guys on that team and what you
for sure.
Program.
Appreciate that, brother. Appreciate that.
Got a few more for you, Rich. Thanks for the realness, man. Gopher fans,
sure.
Real. What was it like playing in the barn, Rich? When did you realize that this place was definitely the sixth man, because it gets so loud and crazy in there? What was it like playing in the barn for you?
It was always awesome. First of all, the raised floor is just, I loved playing on the raised floor because, you would see teams come in and they would be intimidated by the raised floor, if they weren't used to playing on it. And then whenever you wanted to get the crowd, whenever the crowd needed to be pumped up, all you had to do was dive off the floor and you lose the ball and they'd get right back into the game. So
yes.
No, but the first time I knew this place was special, like really special, I remember one night, and I don't know if it was, I think it was my freshman year, it may have been my sophomore year, but we were in the middle of a blizzard. And they were talking about canceling the game. They didn't cancel the game. I think we might have been playing against Michigan. Mm-hmm. And I'll never forget this. Willie Burton and I was walking to the gym before the game, and the snow was coming down so hard you can barely see 10 feet in front of your face, and and it was probably already 10 to 12 inches on the ground. It was still coming down, and I remember Willie Burton looking at me, and he said, "Man, no one's gonna be at this game tonight." And I agreed with him. I said, "Yeah, I know you're probably right, because no one's going to come out in this weather." And we got to the gym a couple hours early. You get there early to get dressed and everything. And we came up, for our, the shoot around before the official shoot around start. You kind of come up and get some shots up. And it was what we expected. There was no one in the gym. We had a couple people, but it was really empty. So we go back downstairs, and and Clem has, we have the pregame talk. So then you come up for, the warm up before the game, and a couple people had came in, but it was pretty much still empty. And then there's that time, like 5 minutes before or 10 minutes before the game start, you go back down, right? And you got one last pep talk before the game start. We came up, and like with that 10 or 15 minutes, that gym had went from not having many people there to like totally, if not, I mean, almost full, if not totally full. And I'm telling you, when I ran up out of that tunnel and I saw those people, I got chill bumps. And in the huddle, when we stepped on the court, when the first 5 stepped on the court, I called a huddle and I told all of my teammates, I said, every single ounce of energy you have in your body tonight, you leave it on the court for these people that came out to see us play. I mean, every ounce of energy, you make sure you leave it here tonight. Because we all realized that was a special moment. And we all realized that people came in the danger of the snowstorm, came out to support, our basketball team, which really told us they appreciate what we are, who we are, and what we're trying to accomplish there. And, that type of support, you don't get that everywhere you go. And you don't get that in every stadium. And you have season ticket holders right now these season tickets have been in their family for 60 years, passed down from generation to generation. You don't get that with every fan base. But we get it here. We get it here, and it's an amazing place to play. And even when I go back now, even though the seats have changed and the structure of the seat has changed a lot, that floor is still the same. And the memories that was created on that floor when I was playing there with my teammates, those are things that I would never forget. And those are things that, to have a son come here and play, it's something that I'll never forget. I mean, it's something that, I couldn't even have dreamed of, is having one of my kids play at the University of Minnesota.
The barn is a special place. Gopher fans are special. They love their Gophers. So Gopher fans, we just love the support that you continually give. And piggybacking off of what you just said, I saw an interview that you had, Rich, and you said Jarvis was the first one to stay home and commit to the Gophers, and that created something and started something. But what Amir did in terms of committing to the Gophers and staying home and showing people that it's okay to stay and play for your home team, I believe that was huge. And I think that started another wave in terms
For sure. No doubt. No doubt.
That was huge.
No doubt. And I hear a lot of people always say, Amir was the first kid to stay home. And I really want to give, the props or the credit where, it really starts. And that's with Jarvis. Jarvis Johnson, he was really the first kid to stay home to commit to Patino in the coaching staff here. Now, unfortunately, he was never able to play, but he was the first, top Minnesota player to stay home in a long time. Now, Amir was the first player to stay home that actually had an opportunity to play. And I think that sent a really strong message to Minnesota and to some other kids in Minnesota, and we were fortunate enough to get 3 of the top freshmen in the state, top seniors in the state that are freshmen down at the University of Minnesota. Those 3 guys are gonna have phenomenal careers at the University of Minnesota. Gabe has been phenomenal this year for us. He's played extremely well. He shot the ball extremely well. I think he's also learned some different things with this game. Arturo has been awesome for us. He's played well. And I'm telling you right now, Jarvis Mercer, that guy with the energy that he has, on the sideline cheering his teammates on. And then, he hasn't played a lot this year, but the 5 or 10 minutes that he played in the Michigan game, I thought he did extremely well. That young man's going to be another player that has a great career at the University of Minnesota. Once he put his athleticism together with understanding the game and playing, he's going to be a phenomenal player as well. So it's important to keep local talent. It's really good to see local talent staying here. And it's also a good feeling to know that my son was a part of that, or a part of getting that started. And I hope, some of the local talent can see what the experience that the guys are having here this year, the freshmen, and I hope we can get some more people to stay here in the near future.
Yes, yes. I love the young fella, Jarvis. His energy,
I love it, man.
his
I love
mindset, like we talked about, he's always ready. He's gonna be a problem here
Yeah.
in a good way.
Yeah.
And that's what being a great teammate and a student athlete is all
No
about.
doubt. No doubt.
And that energy is contagious. So he's gonna be really good. And there's just so much talent here now, Rich. When I was here in the late 90s, it would be one kid here, another kid there. But now I went to the high school tournament today. There's so much talent here.
Ton of talent. You know, I think when I came, there were probably at max 3 or 4 guys leaving the state to play D1 basketball. Now there's a ton of them leaving the state, and you know, we're Minnesota is well represented across the nation with players that are either playing in the NCAA tournament or the NIT tournament. You know, with players, you know, doing extremely well on the national level, and it's always good to see. You know, it's good to see, you know, players that your son grew up with. It's good to see those guys be successful. You know, they may have battled in high school, or they may have battled on local AAU teams, but it's great to see all these young men out, you know, being successful, you know, enjoying their life, you know, finding their next level and working towards that degree. I mean, it's just phenomenal, man. You know, whenever a kid leaves Minnesota, regardless how much you might have battled with that individual in high school, you just want every one of those kids to be successful.
I love it, man. It's a beautiful thing to see. Shout out to Renee Pulley, Howard Pulley organization, Antoine Harris, because they played an extreme role in elevating the level of basketball in the state of Minnesota. So shout out to those guys. They do a great job, Howard Pulley.
No doubt, no doubt. They have done an amazing job with that, most definitely.
So, Rich, a couple more. Let me tap into that brilliant mind one more time. So,
Sure.
After a 4-year career with the Gophers, your life transitions into a professional on the basketball court, which eventually transitions into a professional in what you're doing now as a businessman / entrepreneur. Yeah. What was the mindset like when you were playing with the Timberwolves and overseas? And a lot of former athletes struggle with the transition into player and into being a successful businessman, being a successful family man. Like, can you briefly just sum up what your mindset was as a professional player and then into the business world?
Yeah, I mean, the transition is extremely tough. I mean, you know, for most of us, we have played basketball all of our lives. You know, starting out probably when we were, you know, 2 or 3, dribbling a basketball in our basement or our backyard. And when you get to the point in your life where you actually have to give that up, it becomes very difficult. And you know, some people struggle a lot with that transition. For me, you know, I didn't get a chance to transition out on my own time. I had a career-ending injury that kind of took me out of the sport, and that was even tougher. But you know, you have to understand and believe that when one season ends for you, another season begins, and you have to. Sometimes you may have to recreate yourself. You know, from being a professional athlete to being a businessman / entrepreneur. And you know, the transition took some time to really, for me to, you know, figure out what I wanted to do and what direction I wanted to go in. And I started out in sales, professional sales, and did real well at that, and became a sales manager and VP of sales for some companies that I worked for. And then I kind of wanted to, you know, I've always wanted to be a motivational speaker. So, you know, I dabbled in that a little bit, and then really started to create that in my life probably within the last 8 years. You know, my wife and I now, she's my business partner, my wife, my friend. She's huge for me in that area with helping me build that part of our business. You know, Richard Coffey Unlimited. And, you know, our website is richardcoffey.net. You can go visit that. And then I also do some work with the nonprofit 180 Degrees that focus on serving kids that are underserved, you know, helping individuals try to, you know, reach their potential, helping individuals try to strive to be their best. You know, we have group homes, we have shelters, we have a halfway house, we have an SEY shelter for sexually exploited youth. You know, so we have programs to help young men find jobs. So, you know, that's what encompasses my life right now. You know, my professional speaking business and my work with 180 Degrees. You know, both of those areas allow me the opportunity to give back to other individuals and try to help individuals find themselves and find who they are. And it's really important work.
What you're doing is important, Rich, man. It's so huge. There's so many people that need help and don't have options. They don't have opportunities, you know, whether it's your professional speaking business or, like you said, giving back to the community with the nonprofit. It's a great job, man. Keep up the great work. It's so needed. Man.
I love it, man. I absolutely love it, man. When you can really help another individual out and help that individual kind of find the next step in their lives, or when you have a chance to speak to an audience and help people focus on their personal and professional development. It's not even work, you know. It's actually a passion.
I want to be like you when I grow up, man.
You are.
And your wife is an amazing individual. Hello, Miss Coffey. Keep up the great work. So let's end it with this one, Rich.
Yeah.
Big game tomorrow, man.
Big game.
Give us your breakdown, keys to the Gophers getting a big win against Louisville, things that they have to focus on. What's their mentality tonight? You went through that process. Can you give the fans a little bit of what's going on inside these young people's minds?
Hey, night before the game, you're super excited. Can't wait for the game to start. You're ready to get out there. And I think the key for us is really simple. Amir Coffey and Jordan Murphy. Those two guys play solid and have a good game. We win.
Simple as that.
As simple as that.
Thank you, Rich, man. I just want to, like I said, big you up and salute you for all the great things that you have done and continue to do your career. You're a Gopher legend. You're a Gopher great. I just appreciate you, brother. Keep up the great work. Is there anything else that you want to say to Gopher fans, how you want to be remembered as a Gopher, and just give us your website one more time so that we can follow you and you know, get you way more business?
More business is always good. But, you know, I just want to say, and I say this all the time to Gopher fans that I meet or that come up and talk to me, whether I'm at a game or out in the public somewhere. You know, I just truly appreciate the support, the level of support that the fans here gave our team, you know, back when I played, and that they continue to give the Gopher program. It's an amazing feeling. It's super amazing to know that we have loyal fans that's been around for decades and decades that continue to support our young men that come here and spend a very valuable 4 years at the University of Minnesota. You know, the support that they give, you know, our program is amazing. You know, truly appreciate that. You know, kudos to all the fans. Keep supporting our boys. Keep believing in them. And you know, you are definitely the sixth man that we need in the program to continue to be successful.
Amen. How should they remember you as a player, man?
Worked hard all the time.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Rich. We appreciate you, man. Thank you for coming on today. We appreciate your time. We know how valuable it is. Have a safe trip out to Iowa tomorrow. Gophers get that win. Be sure to please follow Golden Dunkers on Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, YouTube, and Twitter. We appreciate the feedback and the support. Let us know which former Gophers you want to see in the future. Please continue to support Golden Dunkers Live. Thank you, Keith Cook. We appreciate you, man, for all your valuable expertise. And please, please remember this saying, anybody can score, but can you shut down your opponent? Anybody can score, but can you shut down your opponent? If you can't, please call 1-833-LOCK-YOU-UP. Once again, 1-833-LOCK-YOU-UP, because like I said, anybody can score, but can you shut down your opponent? Thank you, Mr. Richard Coffey. Go Gophers.
Go Gophers.
Yes.